Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wuthering Waves. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an updated tier list for the game over on Pridewind. But before we get into that, we did manage to hit 45,000 subscribers on this channel, which I am so excited about, and I have to give a massive thank you to you guys as well. So we are going to be doing a $100 giveaway in this video. Just be subscribed, leave a comment, you'll go into the draw. We'll announce the winner about a week away in a community post. We currently also have 4 other giveaways going on the channel from our pre-release videos as well. But this one, so obviously when a game launches, you have a lot of theory crafting, then you get into the practicality side, finding out different rotations, different mechanics and stuff like that. So we do get some adjustments to things like this. Also, we have the Havoc Rover, who has now been calculated and stuff like that. And keep in mind, this is also subjective, it can change. And read the disclaimers on this site. I spent 8 minutes reading disclaimers in my previous tier list video, so I'm not going to do it in this one. Just know this is based around the TOA mode in the game, the Trial of Adversity, which is like your end game Memory of Chaos if you played Star Rail, Abyss if you played Genshin. It's based around that. And just keep in mind with that mode, you do need 3 teams at the end of the day. So, you know, you are going to have to build a lot of stuff anyway. But let's get into it and take a look at some of these changes. Now, the only 2 that are visible with the icons are Sanhua and also the new Havoc Rover in here. But they did do some other changes on the 23rd as well, which I want to cover as well because that's basically since the last time that I covered it. Now, I want to go through the changes mainly. I'll go quickly and touch on all the characters as well for those that want my thoughts on them. But yeah, it's like I do like some of these changes because Sanhua was one of my favorites, and she is actually a really solid unit. Some CN tier lists I am seeing are actually rating her as like tier 0 as well. The other thing is, once again, because this is based on the endgame mode where max DPS and basically maximizing your DPS in a rotation. Do you guys want me to get a couple other creators on and do like a boomer tier list and we talk about character? Because like some of the combos, like I watched some Billy stuff where the CN players are doing like 9 switches before getting back to their main DPS. Me, typically, I go main DPS, healer, hybrid, main DPS. I don't know. So if you want me to do like a boomer tier list that considers like how much damage output they have in like a simplified rotation, let me know. I think that would be an interesting video to get some people on for, just because like the game is more complex than, especially for casual players and especially on phone. And that's why I re-rolled for a new account that had Jiyan, because I've been doing a lot of playing on my phone as well, and that is like impossible to play complexity on a phone. But let me know. Anyway, let's go through it. Jiyan, just insane damage, AoE, grouping. Dude is just an absolute monster. By far the best damage dealer in the game at the moment. And also, on top of that, Calcharo, really tight windows, pretty tough to play in my opinion. Like play optimally, that is. So I just think Jiyan is tier 0 across the board, no matter what you do, because the dude is just face roll as well, which I absolutely love about him. We're not going to touch too much on what's her face Yinlin because she's not out in the game yet. I think it's a bit awkward having her on the tier list because I feel like also you got to consider teams, and then like Calcharo will get a boost from her and stuff like that. But yeah, we're not going to talk too much about her. She'll come out in a couple weeks and we'll take a look. Then obviously Verina, just universal support. She's got that, her buffing capabilities are ridiculous, plus low on field time makes her pretty awesome in general. That 30-second buff just that stacks through is fantastic. Baishi used to have it, then they changed her outro skill to be not as good anymore. Obviously I'm tipping just to make Verina look better as well. And then we jump into Calcharo. Once again, great DPS, great numbers. To me, he is a lot harder to play than Jiyan. He's a lot, I feel like he's a lot more technical and less face roll is the way I would put it, but still fantastic DPS. Now, I have been seeing Encore, once again, in some CN tier lists. Maybe I could go over some CN versus global tier lists as well. Get like the tier 0 spot where they're absolutely loving her DPS. I think this is a good spot for her. I still think Jiyan is just the safer bet. But once again, I always struggle to think about it as, okay, are we looking at raw damage? Are we looking at 9 swaps per character? Or are we looking at more realistic, normal people playing the game? So, once again, it is a bit interesting, but I think Encore is still like a fantastic unit. She, in my opinion, is the second best DPS in the game. I know a lot of people love Calcharo. He, just for me personally, my playstyle, he just ain't it for me. Mortefi, honestly, Mortefi is just insane. My only issue with Mortefi if I'm being completely honest, is that this game doesn't have macros and I can't macro his E and left click into the same button. If his E would auto tap every time I press left click, it'd be fantastic, so I didn't have to spam 2 buttons. But the dude is so easy to play, so effective. His buffing capabilities are insane, and playing him with Jiyan is just... It's just so free. It's so free. So the dude is absolutely great. No doubt about that. So the next one is going to be Sanhua. So she has had an adjustment on the tier list. And I've got there, if you guys want to check it, you can go up here to the changelog and check it anytime. But I'm just going to read it on my other screen so that we can keep looking at the tier list while we go through these things. Also, sorry for my voice. I'm still getting over this cold, so if I sound like shit, I do apologize. But Sanhua, basically, with the addition of Rover Havoc to the tier list, which we'll talk about in a sec, who deals a large chunk of their damage through basic attacks, Sanhua finds another team to call home. This addition means that she's now the best support for Encore, Yangyang, and Havoc Rover, all which are viable in the endgame. On top of that, Sanhua easily slots into any other teams as a generic carrier of the 5p Moonlit set, so the switch in set, basically the white set, and the Heron Echo, meaning she can extend her usability even beyond this with some of the most coverage, lowest field time, and effective concerto rotations. Sanhua joins Mortefi as one of the go-to hybrid options for most teams. So that's... This one, like, I've always loved this character since she came in. And when they talk about concerto rotations, it's about how quickly you can generate your concerto. And the way she works is because you can switch into her, you can use alt skill, and then her intro on skill of putting the ice pillars on, she gets like a massive bar that she can pop. I gotta do a whole video on her. I gotta do a whole video on a lot of things. And then she gets like this massive range that she can pop it, and she gets so much concerto from it, and that's why she has really high burst damage in a very short window of her switch-ins, which is like, that's like the reason she's crazy. But also, like, if you do try and play her beyond just that burst window, if you're playing her a little bit less optimally, she does get a bit confusing until you get Eidolons, or whatever they call them. They start with S. Until you get her dupes, essentially. Then she does get some lenience on her playstyle, but without her dupes, she's like one of those tight characters, and I find myself looking at the bar more than I find myself looking at enemies, which can be kind of detrimental, but once again, I am a boomer, so these things happen. Next up, Jianxin. Jianxin got the multi-role ability because she has on her outro skill the deepen for Havoc damage. It makes her a great support for the Havoc Rover. So she is going to be also a support, not only a main DPS, she's going to be everyone's favorite solo unit for hologram bosses and stuff like that, but she's also a great support for the Havoc Rover. So that is that one. Next up, we actually have the Havoc Rover in here. Now, the interesting thing for me with the Havoc Rover is that their main damage source comes from basic attacks. I thought it was going to be heavy attacks when I first read them because of the way they were trying to force you to play it. But if we look at it, they basically from calculations and also from ease of use, when you go into their Fallen Angel form, it's not doing the heavy basic, which then if you're in the Fallen Angel form and you're doing the heavy attack basic, then all that damage is considered heavy attacks. However, they are just using basic, and they're doing 2 full 5 attack rotations of the basic skill and then another rotation of the basic. So that is where the playstyle of the character determines where most of their damage comes from. And currently they are calculating the Havoc Rover on using just basic spam in their ultimate, which I do like. Even if it's like a tiny bit less DPS, I think it's a great way to calc it because it's just like such an easier way to play the character. Now, you still do have to do heavy basic in their basic rotation to get their gauge up, but I mean, even if you're not doing that, it's not the end of the world. So that is the Havoc Rover. The next one is going to be my girl Jianxin. I love this character. Now, this one, she did get the update on the 23rd in the tier list, but I'm going to go through it because I think she is such an interesting one to look at. Okay, so Jianxin has a liberation damage percent deepen outro, which is excellent for Kuro, especially before Yinlin arrives, as his premium support, raising her value. So Kuro good, she's best support for him. or best hybrid, let's call it. So it's really awkward with terminologies in these. Raising her value. Additionally, thanks to community theory crafting efforts, an alternative way of conducting Jianxin's concerto rotation has been discovered, offering her a much faster option and much higher potential to be played as a support. Basically, instead of doing her full shield charge, like hold, that charge attack, you just basically cancel it instantly. You get the concerto from it, and then you can just keep going away, and you get the ult energy as well from it. So they basically found that just canceling it is like optimal for DPS rotations, but then you also have the option to fully channel it if you're going for survivability stakes. And this is what I love about this character, is that she's one of those characters that you can play in just about any role. Not optimally, but she can play as a main DPS if you want to. You're going to be massively down on DPS from someone like Jiyan, Kalcharo, or Encore, but she can be played in that role in a clutch situation as like a face roll type character. That's her least used position. She can play played as this hybrid because she has the ultimate deepening damage, which is fantastic. So you can switch into your main DPS from her, and she also does some decent little side DPS to help. But then you can also play her in that supportive role, it depends how you play her, because her shield is a bit awkward with the healing on it. You got to wait 6 seconds for the character to get healed to proc the buff from the healing set, the healing echo set, or you can put the healing gauntlets on her and play her as the healer. And then if you have a hybrid who is heavily focused around ult damage, then she can go ahead and buff them. Yes, it's not as helpful as someone like what's her face, Verina, who's going to be buffing your main DPS because her buff lasts through characters, but she can be played as a pinch sustain unit that is then also going to buff your sub DPS or your hybrid to help them deal more damage if you have a high damage dealing one of those who deals liberation damage. So she's one of those awkward ones that at the moment she's commonly seeing in calcs to be played as the hybrid. I am personally using her as the sustain in my team with Mortefi and Jiyan. But once again, I think she's just one of those such flexible characters, and she offers the sustain as well. I just think she's such a good character. Like, I am loving playing with this character. I think she's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to stop talking about her. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. I think she's absolutely wicked and like coolest animations in the game. I mean, Jiyan's pretty cool with the dragon too. Like, let's not get it twisted. Also, Havoc MC, pretty sick as well. And also, the Havoc MC, even the male version, does look pretty cool. I was wrong on my take. Okay, then we have the Spectro MC. Honestly, I struggle to care for this Spectro as much because the Havoc's so cool, and I'm not really going to play this too much. But just all around a general, like, fairly comfortable unit to play, but I'm pretty much never switching back to it after getting the Havoc DPS, because now for me it's going to be like Jiyan. I'm going to get Encore from my selector, and then I'm going to play Havoc Rover. So then I'll just have Mortefi Jiyan, I'll have Sanhua with Encore, and then I'll have Havoc Rover with Yangyang, and that's going to be my 3 core teams essentially. And then my sustain units are probably going to be Verina once I get her. I'm actually going to be using Jianxin as one of my sustain because I just love her and I want to use her as it. And then I can pick one of these 2 for my final one, which leads us on to Baiji. I'm not going to go through Baiji. She's pretty, Baiji, as I believe they say it. Dude, I suck at names. I do apologize. I'm not going to go deep into her. She's a healer. You know, you put the healing set on her, you get the extended buff. I think the more interesting one is to look at Yangyang, because she did get a raise in the tier list in her positioning. And I want to talk about that one because she is one of those higher skilled plays to go ahead and use, but can actually give you some really good output if you play her correctly. If you mess it up, I feel like she's not as good of a trade-off. Basically, if you're wondering how she gets the support role, you give her the healing sword and the healing set, and then she can proc the healing set buffs. And that's basically, and you also give her the turtle, obviously. And that's what she, the big turtle, not the little turtle. And that's how she's going to work. So let's read through their description. With the introduction of Deepen, creating and exploding damage windows on main DPS characters has become more powerful. Many of the current characters in the game, such as Kalcharo, Jiyan, and Encore, all require their ultimate in order to achieve maximum damage, and will aim to have it active at the same time as all the team the team buffs and powerful deepen multiplier. Yangyang's outro offers energy regen, something that can assist these characters with gaining access to their ultimate faster in order to exploit the burst windows. So I'm just going to go down and skip a little bit. You can use your main DPS ultimate burst window. So you go through your whole burst window with your main DPS, swap to Yangyang, charge her concerto, use her outro into your main DPS, which then grants them that extra energy, then just dead switch into your deepen buffer or your hybrid, and then you get their concerto full, and then you swap back to your main DPS because then they've got the energy up quicker. And the whole idea is that with what's her name? I don't want to say it. Apparently, this is a slur if you say it the wrong way. With Yangyang, so with her, you can then get that to that ultimate burst window faster, essentially. So you go DPS, Yangyang, outro into DPS to give them the energy, dead swap into the hybrid to full concerto, swap back to main DPS, and away you go. Like I said, that is how you do it. If you're playing it unoptimally, I don't think she's going to be the best healer. But if you're like min-maxing to try and get that max damage potential, you can do it. And once again, this is something eventually you may do. The one thing I always try and consider is the fact that in a lot of these games, for instance, I'm like, I don't know what Genshin's like. I never played. I'm going to use Tower Fantasy. I know, scuffed, but that's like the one game that I played a bit more. You could kind of pick your main character and your main team and just really focus on that and not really stress too much about the other stuff because you could use them everywhere. In this one, you're kind of forced to use 3 teams. So it's like you've got to then, if you're playing 3 complex teams and trying to master them, and you're more of a casual player and you don't have the time to play 12 hours a day to get good at every team you play, that's what I try to consider, because it's like, it's tough to then be doing like 3 complex teams and have your muscle memory for all of them locked in when you just switch teams. I don't know, maybe that's me because I suck, but let me know if that's you as well. But that's something I always try and consider when we look at these things, and that's why when I go through and I'm going to start making guides for characters, I'm going to give options on basic rotations where it's just DPS, hybrid, support. DPS, hybrid, support, where you roll through each character, getting them to full concerto, because I feel like that is a realistic way to play for a lot of people, especially if you're on phone. If you're trying to do like the 9 switches on phone, holy shit, you got to be next level. I can't even do the dragonfly mini games on my phone because that shit is impossible to steer, let alone do like some intense combos on phone. It just ain't happening. Next up, we have my girl Chixia. I can't not call her Chixia now. I know it's just Chixia, but nah, Chixia. You know, we're into the lower tier DPS, dude. Lingyang, Lingyang, dude. I hate the names, dude. Anyway, Lingyang. I always thought it was Lingyang. This guy annoys the shit out of me. I tried to give him another try. But holy shit, when he goes up into totem mode, and then you just like want to travel between enemies and you try and walk and he's like hopping on the bloody toe. Like, it is the most awkward thing. I just cannot stand it. Also, his damage calcs are on low, and that's why he's tier 2. So that's what it is. What it is. Alto, I believe Alto did come up from tier 3. Basically, he's got arrow deepen damage, which makes him great. Now, that does make him a decent buffer for Jiyan because of that arrow damage buff. But unfortunately, Mortefi is just better. And also with dupes, Mortefi gets more damage amplification, which makes him better. Whereas Alto gets more damage focus for himself through dupes. But I definitely think Alto is a great option if you just enjoy the character as just a buffing unit for arrow damage. Not too bad at all. Once again, the raw arrow damage buffing in a lot of situations, like the element buffing in a lot of situations could be better than like the type of damage buffing, because you only get a percentage of your damage based on the type of damage, whereas the element damage is basically everything. So definitely can be viable, but once again, he's sitting there. Yuan Wu, they basically said that they're still calcing him and trying to work him out because he got some core mechanical changes. I guess that's in timing of skills and everything like that. So we might see a change on Yuan Wu in the future, but at the moment we are not. And then we go into Tao Qi. Now, they did do a write-up here. Like Jianxin and Alto, she possesses Deepen Multiplier, which would in turn mean that you would be looking at her as your hybrid position character. She Deepen Multiplier, but for resonance skill damage. And currently, based on our research, the only main DPS that deals a large amount of resonance skill damage is Chixia, whose performance isn't a match for the higher rank damage dealers due to her Deepen bonus not being immediately applicable in patch 1.0. We're leaving her where she is for now, but keeping an eye on her ready to take action if new characters or current characters shift to abusing resonance skill damage higher up the tiers. So that's it. I feel like that's a fair description. I think they should just move her across into hybrid. They do have the multi-role on her though as well, just to have that covered. But I feel like if she just sits over here, that would probably be a safer place for her. But that is basically everything we are looking at in the tier list. Once again, it's based around the trial of adversity and max DPS. Let me know if you want to see a boomer tier list. I feel like that would be a fun one to make and could actually be like semi-useful for people who are jumping into the game and looking at like, oh, this is the best DPS, but also like you just want to play casually for like, you know, the half an hour a day, and you're not going to min-max 3 teams worth of rotations. But anyway, guys, don't forget to be subscribed, leave a comment to enter the giveaway. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.